Here at Ledbetter Auctions, we have had quite a few S.L. Jones come through, and they come through in the carved heads, and then later, from what I understand, after he developed arthritis, he started to draw a lot. So we get a lot of the drawings, and we've had probably 12 of the heads, ranging from his early great work to his later work that doesn't have as much detail. But this one right here is a super early one. It has a lot of detail in the chin and the mouth and the eyes. But you knew S.L. Jones.
I visited him several times. He lived in Hinton, West Virginia. He worked for the Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad for like 45 years. After he retired, he started whittling. He did life-size characters. He also played the fiddle. He was in a pickup band, I guess, of musicians. Saw him at an opening in Roanoke one time where he played, and he was quite talented. And then as he got older, he, kind of hung around his little homestead. And like you said, he started drawing. He still carved. It wasn't as refined as this. This is a really nice bust.
In all of his carvings, you cannot compare his carvings to somebody like Larry Ballard. It's a different style. All of his carvings are crude. So you could never look at a S.L. Jones head and say, well, I see knife marks. That's just how they are. I mean, he wasn't one to send out anything like that. I mean, but for an S.L. Jones head, this is a dramatic. It's a lot brighter without the sunglasses.
This is a hard wood. Too. He used wood chisels. Like you said, they weren't as refined as Larry's work, not as slick. But he had his own unique style. You could see the face in his drawings. You can see the face, the way it's shaped and formed. His work was sort of instantly recognizable.
S.L. Jones head. You want to go ahead and pre-auction this thing? We got 5 people here. I think we can do it.
Yeah.
Okay, on the S.L. Jones head, who did about 100 to go? 100, now going to be 2, 200, now going to be 3, 300, now 4, going to be 4, 500, 5, now going to be 6, 7, 8, 9, 1,000, 1,000, now 1,250, 1,250, 8,000, now going to be 1,250, going to go 1,250, now going to be 1,500, 15, going to be 1,500, now going to be 1,750, 1,750, now going to be 2,000, 2,000, got to go 2,000, now 2,000, now going to be 2,500, big divine pine, take it a big ball 10, 25.
It's only money.
2,500 now going to be 3,000. 3,000 now going to be 3,500. 35. Tell you what, folks, we're going to leave it there, and we're going to catch up on this when it's the real thing. The last one of this caliber we sold brought 18,000. But here's the thing about an auction, guys, that you got to realize. It's what it's worth that day. I mean, it really is. That face jug that I bought for $100, that's what it was worth that day. 2 months later, when it sold at Billy Ray Hussey's for $3,700, that's what it was worth that day. When it gets resold again, if it brings $800, that's what it was worth that day. That's the rationale on the why. Well, that's what it was worth that day.
Yeah, and there's also what something is worth and what someone will pay for it are two different things. You never know. And if 2 people want it really bad.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Whoever dies with the most and the best wins.
That's true.
When you collect folk art, that's true.
That's right.
And I think where a lot of people are missing the boat here is if you have a folk art collection, you also have a book that can be written. Your stories, I'm not trying to screw myself out of money here because once this gets out, I think a lot of people will do it, but you need to do it. If you have a 200-piece folk art collection, you have a 200-page book, And
there are a lot of catalogs with personal collections.
Absolutely.
Large collections, that's true.
And what a better gift to hand your child. Don't handle the money for all the folk art. Just hand them the catalog. Sell the folk art, and you enjoy the money. Give your kids the catalog.
Go to the beach.
I'm going to start saying that to people. When they say, I think I'm going to give that to the museum. Ma'am, let me sell it. Give the museum the catalog.
There you go.
It's pretty good, isn't it?
It's
all right.
dizzying.
S.L. Jones head. Why didn't he stamp the forehead?
Stamp the forehead?
I've got him where he stamped the forehead. I mean, with the little individual stamps.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I guess he did in different ways. In this one, he actually carves the base. Show him where they
I love that.
He actually carves.
I love that. It's upside down.
He had a sign on his mailbox carved out the same way. And people constantly ask him, can I buy that mailbox from you? Can I buy that sign? And I think someone finally got it. It might have been after he died. But one story that is kind of chilling, he had a bust about this size of his brother or uncle or somebody, and it was on the mantelpiece in his living room. And he said a dealer kept asking to buy it. SL said, no, that's my kin. I want to keep that piece. I want to keep that. He was a very sweet, gentle fellow. And he said, finally, the guy came to him and said, I know who it is, but I'm not going to tell you who it is. Finally, the guy came to him and said, look, SL, this is what I'll do. I'll buy this from you, and I'll take a studio quality photograph of it.
I've done that before.
And then you can put that photograph on the wall, and you'll still have it, more or less. So that's, SL said, well, that seemed to make sense. So that's what I did. I'd sold it to him for, I can't remember, a couple $1,000s.
Oh, wow.
And then the guy sent him a photograph later. So whatever. That's one of the things that's sort of sad is you don't, a lot of times, the families of some of these more famous folk artists end up with nothing. It's all sold. It's all gone. Probably true to most of the Finster family, and I know it was true for SL and a few other artists that, that artist work is left on the curb. It's not recognized by the families being worth anything. And so anyway, and that's how I made my first million. And so you missed it.
You know what just happened there?
No.
Gymnastics place called me and said Jet twisted his ankle.
Oh, shoot.
And they said that they're icing it. So I said, well, is it broke? And they said, no, he's moving. I said, okay, he's fine.
All right.
Let him go.
All right.
What kind of world are we building? Twist your ankle, put some ice on it, sit there. I'm not leaving this podcast to go pick you up.
Yeah.
I'm not picking you up till 3.
Exactly. You've got to, unless amputation is involved, Matt's out of the whole picture.
I twist my ankle every day. I broke my ankle off of those steps, and 2 days later, I walked around Legoland. We actually combined a folk art trip with this. We hauled a bunch of Benny Carter down.
Right.
We said, okay, we're going to pull a trailer. Benny Carter got bought. We got to deliver it. In Deerfield, we're going to pick up a bunch of Purvis Youngs, right?
And you're in the back seat, clapping your hands like that, going, can we go to Lego Town?
No,
please.
But my 3 kids were.
Please?
So no. We scheduled that in. Actually, It was really cool. We went to Savannah, Georgia. We went to Tybee Beach.
Yeah.
Then next stop was Legoland a couple days later.
Wow.
All right.
What a life.
I had a broke foot. The first day, I walked on my heel. The second day, it was so sore, my wife's like, get a wheelchair. I stand in line, and I get a wheelchair. I wheel myself over to her. Yeah. You know what she says? Matt, who the hell is going to push you around in that wheelchair? Get a motorized one, you idiot. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know. I was like, there's people here with legit, broken, one legs and broken. I didn't want to take, but anyway, I went back and got a motorized one. Yeah, it was fun. All I'm saying is I mess my foot up all the time. Whatever, he'll be good.
Yeah, well, that's good. I know a lot of times the story is part of the reason people like the artwork. But believe it or not, there's some really bad folk artists out there where it's not the case. And, ultimately the artwork speaks for itself. But SL did have a very colorful story. He worked for the railroad for 45 years, and he was whittling since he was a boy, but when he retired, started doing it in earnest. He was also a musician. He played the fiddle. He was grassroots West Virginia all the way. So, when you use the term folk art, he's definitely on the folky side for sure, more so than self-taught, even though he was self-taught as well. But I just think that the style is a little bit old-fashioned, the primitive nature of his work. You go to one of these Christmas shows at the Coliseum, and they have everything is so pristine and perfect. I think what really appeals to a lot of people are things that have a primitive edge to them, and his work definitely did.
When you visited him, how many of these heads at once did you see?
He didn't have any. He had a bird that he had carved. This was in the latter part of his career.
Okay.
It was like in the mid-90s, and the best carvings had already been done. If you look at this book called Old Appalachia, which has a whole section.
It's a great book.
He did a carving of his band, fiddle players and drummer and other musician. And they're in the Smithsonian. But his, I guess the primary part of his career was over with. He was doing a lot of drawings. And unfortunately, and I've seen this with a number of artists, he would be halfway through a drawing and someone would come to visit him and want to buy it. He would say, well, it's not finished yet. Oh, that's okay. So stuff got watered down a little bit.
Yeah.
Fame will do that to some of the artists. But this is probably, mid-career when he was really carving a bunch and the demand wasn't so intense. So I think most of his work was where a lot of the artists, and I mentioned this before, they got started late in life because they retired or they got injured at work or they, wanted to do something, have something to do. So when I first started to travel throughout the Southeast to visit these artists, I could go see 10 or 15 artists in North and South Carolina and Georgia and Louisiana and Mississippi. And it was just a circuit. If it's Tuesday, this must be Mose Tolliver, But then they all seemed to die at once, because they were all older to begin with and they disappeared pretty quickly. So I'm not sure how old he was when he passed away.
That's a Google.
Yeah, but he was, I think, well into his 80s when I met him.
I want to touch on your question, which was, I don't remember how you asked it, but it was something to the effect of, why did people collect him? Okay, so you have two types of collectors. You have the collector, if you asked me, why do you collect Stacey Lambert? Because I love Stacey Lambert. I know him, I met him, and I fell in love with him. My kids love him. So anytime he has 6 jugs, I'm buying them, right? Why do you collect Marvin Bailey? Because I know him. Why does Mike collect S.L. Jones? Because he knows him. You've got those people, right? Well, then I never knew S.L. Jones. Sad to say that I never really knew Benny Carter. My dad knew Benny Carter. My dad smoked pot with Benny Carter. There's a story there. He's at a party in the 80s or 70s or whenever it is, and they're passing the joint around, and it gets to my dad, and he goes, passes by him. Benny says, "Is Wade a pussy?" That's the story my dad tells about Benny Carter. But anyway, so you've got those collectors that in their collection, they have artists that they know, but they also have these other artists. So talking to me personally, so I never knew S.L. Jones, but the reason I gravitate to want one, I think I have one good one, and I have one that was like, it must have been really late because there's no detail. It's just like,
Is it painted?
It's painted, but if you put it beside this one, you're like,
yeah,
that's late. It's got to be later. The reason I went after them is because they're in other collections. And if it's good enough for the Mueller collection, then it's going to be good enough for the Ledbetter collection. Who's another name you said?
Oh, God, Jim Ariant.
Okay, if it's
Barron and Ellen Gordon. There are a lot of major collections.
So major. I know the
Museums.
Gordon. I know the Gordon collection. If an S.L. Jones is good enough for the Gordon collection, it's gonna be good enough for the Ledbetter collection. It's gonna be good enough for Kyle's collection, and then the new guy that doesn't even know what folk art is. But when he starts to collect, how do you know what to collect? Well, you look at these other collections and say
that you get direction and ideas, but ultimately, if you're doing this for an investment, probably stick with the stock market because there's no telling. I think you have to love what you collect too.
Right.
But you're right. You gravitate towards people who have been collecting longer than you have to direct you to these artists that resonate with so many different people. And a lot of times it takes you a long time to get into it. I mean, I know there are artists that when I first started collecting that I didn't particularly care for, but then as I was exposed to it, and like you said, visiting these major collectors, I'd see more and more and more of it, then it grew on me.
I'll tell you what, the next ship of the homeless man that brings $2,500, I might be trying to collect that. Exactly. I mean, I have no reason to want to collect that.
Yeah.
But at some point you say, wow, if that's worth $2,500, maybe I can find one
and
out in the bush.
Is that sat in my gallery. I think I had the highest price I ever had on it was $300.
Isn't that something?
And I finally said, well, I'll just take it to Matt.
Well, we have one right here.
Yeah, there is one over there. It's a
now the one he sold that brought $2,200 was
larger. There you go. This is William Pumphrey, who was a homeless man in Charlotte, who was obsessed with Japanese battleships. And this is the Mutsu, which apparently was a real ship. And he scoured the trash cans and junkyards and old models and all kinds of stuff to put these things together. And I remember the last ship that you sold had a little turret here, and then it had a little a gun of some kind, a big cannon, and in it what looked like a 45 shell. And I was looking at it, and I pulled it out, and I said, "Is this a live round?" And William said, "Yeah, I live in an urban area, and I find stuff like that on the ground." And I put it back, and I thought, well, that's just great if somebody drops that and gets killed by a piece of folk art I sold.
Did you leave it in, or did you take it out?
Oh, I left it in, I wasn't going to mess with it.
Killer piece, huh?
No pun intended. Exactly. So he had quite a collection of these. I don't know where everything is now.
So is he still around or no?
I don't think so. I think he passed away.
Did he die on the street?
No, he was living in a homeless shelter in Charlotte,
Oh.
a facility that housed a lot of homeless people. He was a trip. I remember he had jewelry all over his hands, just amazing. Looked like Keith Richards. His hands were huge, but he was obsessed. I don't know why the Japanese particularly interested him, but that was most of the ship.
It was a simple ship. That's why.
Yeah.
I mean, can't you tell how simple it is?
Yeah. And when I saw him working, he was making it in his room in this homeless shelter. Where he was doing everything before he got there, I'm not sure. But he would do like the body of the ship. If he didn't have a piece of wood cut to his specifications, he would create the whole of the ship, sort of a paper mache kind of material. And then he would go out and he would find, old model kits and stuff on the streets, nails and screws and screens and whatever he could find. And he used that to build, there's a bottle cap. He would use that to build the ship.
But again, just talking from a new age collector, you'll have these art. Like my sister, she's got her PhD in art history. She lives in Egypt right now, know, and she's showing me all this stuff. And I say, well, Holly, do they sell that? Talking about medieval art. She's like, Matt, no, they don't sell this. This is something that can't be sold. So I'm at my desk, so I go to Live Auctioneers. I type in the term that she said. Boom, there's an auction that's dedicated to selling this art.
Pieces from that time period.
Yeah, and I text her the link, and she's like, what? They can't do that? How do they even have that? So there's a couple different versions of people who look at this stuff, and the right art historian will say, it's not about money. It's not about money. And to a point, they're right. But this is what I say. Do I know who this is? No. I do a little bit now because the last one brought $2,200. Do I want this in my house? Not really. If the one wouldn't have brought $2,200, the answer would have been hell no. But now it's changed to a not really. If this one brings $2,000, then I'm going to say maybe I can see a place in my house. The next one brings $3,000. Wow, maybe I want one of those, and then luck up and find one for $400, and then it's in the Ledbetter collection. So that's kind of how that flows when you say, do I know who that is? No, I don't, but I'm interested. But I'm mostly interested because other people out there are interested. It's no fun to be the only one interested in something.
And that speaks
think about that.
The type of collector. There are collectors out there that want one of everything,
right?
One from each artist. And then there are people that are obsessed with a specific artist, like your love of Stacey Lambert.
Right.
I'm sure you don't look at everything you've got in your personal collection with dollar signs. It's nice that it is worth something, but it's also something that pleases you and that you like.
For the artists that I actually know. But if you collect baskets, you're not going to put a $5 basket in your basket collection. You're just not.
You ever thought about it? Really small baskets?
Have you ever thought
like a miniature basket?
Do you want to see the best basket I have? Just kidding. What would y'all have done?
What were you going to do? Are you going to hit me?
No. I was acting like it was in my mouth.
Oh.
I think people try to mask this is art, it has spirit, let's not talk about the money. But I think they're forgetting the only reason we know Basquiat as a household name is because one of his pieces brought $160 million. And so now everybody knows who Basquiat is. Yeah, the story's great. You know, we sold a Basquiat once.
You did?
Yeah, supposedly it was found in Raleigh. The story was the lady came with her husband's art collection. She had it all out at the Raleigh flea market. This art dealer was looking through it, and he pulls out 10, and he's like, how much? He bought them for nothing. And then he tried to get people to look at it. Nobody would give it respect. He brought it to me. I spent like $4,500 to be on the front page of askart.com with it, right? And we listed it, starting bid $250,000. I got 10 phone calls the next day about what an idiot I was because this thing's not real, blah, blah, blah. And so it no sold. We relisted it. It brought like $11,000, something like that.
Did it have his signature
I mean,
on
yeah,
it?
but I can write his signature. It's not a big deal. So it was Indian ink on paper, and it looked really good. And listen, I'm sorry, but if your name is Joe Blow Mary and you have a Rothko, good luck selling it.
Yeah, Provenance is pretty
you're not
important.
going to be able to sell a Rothko. You're not going to be able to sell a Jackson Pollock. A random person is not going to be able to sell a $50 million piece of art. Nobody wants to spend $50 million with a random person. And that's that. You've got to get something behind that art. I mean, they make movies about this. We've already said this. And if you hadn't seen that movie and you want to wake up to the art world, you need to see that. Who the F is Jackson Pollock? That's the name of the movie.
Well, provenance is very important. It's very rare that unless you're on Antiques Roadshow and you've got some kind of really expensive find, but it has to be confirmed.
Is this piece worthy of being in the rap song? We need to find out. Wonder if we could get on the phone with the buyer. Would that be intrusive?
Not necessarily. You could call and say,
why did you buy
did you
this?
Enjoy?
Oh, I did. I have had a phone call from somebody in Charlotte
Right.
who has 12 to 15 of these. What is it? Pumphrey?
William
Pumphrey. And I was up front.
A guy, a man?
Yeah, it was a man.
What was his last?
I have no clue. It was one of those
I know
things
who
that
it
just
is.
went in one ear out the other. I also had a guy call me one day. He said, hey, you've sold some items from my grandfather. I said, who's your grandfather? He said, Frog Smith.
Wow.
I tuned into that one, buddy. He ended up sending me like 6 frog. They bring
Really?
like $6,000.
Do they?
Yeah.
Jeez, money was hopping.
Well, Mike, I really appreciate you coming back. I'm sorry I didn't feed you.
Whatever. Got a bottle of water, and that counts for something.
You could have gotten the pineapple water, but you gave it to me.
That's true. That's true.
Well, I think we got a lot done today.
Yeah.
Did it feel like work?
Not really.
Well, this has been a great day. Hope you guys in folk art land are tuning in to Ledbetter House of Folk Art, Ledbetter Auctions. My buddy Kyle, what's your name? Sully's not here. Where's Sully been?
He's off work. Oh, he's doing a real job.
Well, Sully's going to edit all this. And let me tell you, guys, the whole goal for this podcast, we want to become millionaires. So we need you to like us, subscribe to us, and share us. And forward us, send emails out to everybody you know, start an email list, and every time we post, send it to that email list.
And also remember, Matt is available for children's parties, and I am an amateur vet.
And I always wear the Royal Stetson when I folk.
There you go.
Except when I'm doing this podcast because of the ear things.
Yeah. Class.
I had high hopes of wearing that.